When I say crime, what do you see? A mugger stealing someone's wallet? Someone in a mask robbing a bank? Or an international art thief stealing a priceless bejeweled sculpture of a baby elephant, right? I bet you're not thinking of a rich business executive illegally manipulating the stock market. People tend to associate the idea of criminal behavior with street crimes, like robbery and assault, rather than white-collar crimes, like embezzlement and income tax evasion. Why is that? Why is white-collar crime not taken seriously? The term white-collar crime was first coined in 1939 by sociologist Edwin Sutherland. He defined it as a crime committed by a person of respectability and high social status in the course of his occupation. It can be done purely for personal enrichment or on behalf of a company, and corporations as well as individuals can be held responsible for white-collar crimes. Here's Paul Layton, a professor who studies white-collar and corporate crime.
People in trusted professions violating that trust, and especially people of middle class, upper class background.
Trust is an essential element of most white-collar crime. People who didn't fit common conceptions of a criminal, poor, desperate, stuck in self-perpetuating cycles of socioeconomic ruin, got away with criminal behavior because people trusted them more. If no one trusts you, it's going to be harder to engage in, say, fraud, embezzlement, price fixing, violation of labor and environmental regulations, insider trading, corporate bribery, income tax evasion, or stock manipulation. Now, you've probably noticed that those crimes have some things in common. For one thing, they're all pretty boring. They're not as shocking as, say, arson or Grand Theft Auto. Also, none of them involve direct physical violence. That might be the reason why people aren't really afraid of white-collar crime the way they are of street crime. It's not a fight-or-flight situation. After all, it's not like someone's gonna run up to you on a deserted street and spend your pension fund on a beach house. In fact, the Uniform Crime Reporting Index crimes, which are the crime statistics the FBI uses to determine the overall crime rate in the United States, don't even include any white-collar crimes. So theoretically, you could have a low crime rate for these crimes while still having a high rate of white-collar crime. White-collar crime may not keep you up at night, but it can do a lot of damage. For example, the FBI estimated that in 2016, victims of most types of property crimes suffered about $15.6 billion worth of economic losses. That's a lot, right? Well, the American Association of Certified Fraud Examiners estimated the annual cost of occupational fraud is between $300 and $660 billion every year. And that doesn't include other types of white-collar crime. And plenty of researchers think it's a lot higher than that. Plus, it would be wrong to assume white-collar crime never causes physical harm. What about when a restaurant ignores regulations and doesn't handle food properly? Customers could get sick. What about when a company tries to cut costs by not fixing safety or environmental protections? Those choices have injured and killed workers, hurt local economies, and polluted entire ecosystems. Remember BP's Deepwater Horizon oil spill and the resulting economic and ecological disaster? So prisons must just be overflowing with white-collar criminals, right? Well, no. Sometimes white-collar criminals go to prison, like Bernie Madoff, after he was caught perpetrating the largest Ponzi scheme in history. But fines are much more common.
To the billions of dollars that the corporation is making, that fine doesn't come out too much different from a parking ticket.
But it's hard to make generalizations. Compared to street crime, there just aren't that many stats about white-collar crime.
Yeah, there's really almost none. There is a national crime survey, but that doesn't get in white-collar crime. There's a National White-Collar Crime Center, which very occasionally does surveys of people, but there's nothing systematic that tries to help us understand what's going on out there that would draw attention to it.
And that's another reason white-collar crime flies under the radar. It's confusing. In fact, there's no universally accepted definition of what white-collar crime even is. But if we can't agree on what it is, how can we measure it? White-collar crime can be murky and hard to pin down. If someone breaks into your house and steals your TV, it's pretty easy to assign blame. But a lot of white-collar crime involves complicated bureaucracy and red tape, and it can be hard or impossible to single out who is responsible.
So as a prosecutor, you not only need to know what's going on, but then you need to be able to explain it in an indictment for a judge and then be able to simplify it even more for a jury. Meanwhile, on the other side of you, there's an awful lot of resources.
A lot of corporations regard fines as a slap on the wrist, part of the cost of doing business. They find that it's cheaper to pay the fine than to stop doing the crime. For example, in 2018, the United Kingdom fined Facebook their maximum fine of around $650,000 for breaking their privacy laws. That's the amount of profit Facebook makes every 18 minutes.
Under those conditions, chances are that you can get away with it, you can make money on it. And then the question becomes, is your duty as a CEO to maximize shareholder value? Does that mean that you should engage in crimes if the cost of the crime is going to be less than the benefit? So a lot of the structure of our laws would almost build in non-compliance.
You're probably taking white-collar crime seriously now, aren't you? But is there anything we can do about it?
We need to back up a little bit more and figure out how to end the amount of influence that corporations and the wealthy have over lawmaking, because that's where it really starts.
As an individual, you're not likely to have much control over white-collar crime, but you can demand that your elected officials use their powers for good. There are a lot of criminals out there, and we need to watch out for them and them. Turns out, white-collar crime, serious business.